responsible day traders? Today is Sunday. It's Sunday, August 28th, 2022. I am Lindsay Duff, and this is Responsible Day Trading. So I was not here last week. I was feeling a little bit under the weather, and I didn't think I would be missed, but apparently I was, so I appreciate the messages asking where I was. I just didn't feel great, and Jason couldn't get to the video last week, so I just kind of skipped it. It was a big week, so maybe I should have come back a little later in the week and said something about it. Maybe next time I'll do that for sure. I am going to be doing a lot of traveling, heading to Bogota, to London, then to Colorado, all within the next couple of months. So I'm going to be in and out a lot. So there may be chances that I miss a couple of these. If I do, I'm going to prepare early and have Jason take it over for me. So we got some good information about what we're looking for and why we're looking for it, because that's the biggest thing, right? So let's go ahead and check out the news. Okay, so we are going to head on over to responsibledaytrading.com. We're going to go to this little drop down here and we're going to look at market news. This week we don't have anything on Monday. Tuesday we have some news around 9 a.m. So that's 30 minutes after the market opens. So you just want to be aware, pay attention. If you pay attention to news, you want to know what's happening. If not, you want to at least know why there might be a spike around that time. Wednesday we've got some pre-market, and then an hour after market opens we've got crude oil inventories. Thursday, once again, pre-market. 30 minutes after market opens we've got some news. And Friday, our news is all pre-market. I know a lot of people don't trade pre-market, but in that same breath, a lot of people do. So just being aware is always our best bet. So let's go ahead and check out the market. All right, as always, we want to look at the daily chart first. Now, when we left off last week, we were about right here. And something we talked about was maybe expecting a pullback and something along the lines of this to happen. And lo and behold, that is exactly what we've seen. So it pushed up, and the price and the MACDs both pushed up. We started to see a bit of a slowdown in the price here, and the MACDs started to bunch together and then cut back inside. Not only did they cut back inside at this point, they cut across the Bollinger Bands and stayed outside of it. So when we saw this pullback happen Friday and start to push down, it gave us a lot of indications that we were going to see this continue to the downside. So it's always good to be aware of those kind of things. I mean, in the long run, we are still making those lower pivots. We had the higher pivot here, the higher pivot here, and the higher pivot here as well. We've had a little bit of intermittent pivots, and those kind of things are what creates head and shoulders. So we actually have a little bit of a shoulder, head, shoulder right in here, but we may see a bigger one happen as we have the shoulder here, a little bit higher peak. We may see this come back into the area right in here before it really decides to push down. And what makes me think that? Well, number one is being above the zero line. Being above that zero line means that we may see something like this once we get down and push back below or get down towards that area of the zero line, see it kind of stall out and pull back as we see back in here. And maybe pick up that speed and push through that zero line like we see. Our EMAs are still open to the downside. So we're really expecting this to continue down. Now, one of the things that we could anticipate at this point is maybe the price reach down around this area and the MACDs just not make it. The MACDs are going to have to do a lot of work for them to get all the way down towards this last area that we saw in June, July, and not create divergence. So it's going to take a lot of work for it to get all the way down here and not have any divergence. So we may see it stop off somewhere right in here, pull back, pick up the speed to move down. Also, something we want to think about in a strong trending market, we're going to see a lot of divergences. Kind of like what we saw on our way up here, we just saw lots of divergences being created. So if it mills around in a strong trending market, divergences will continue, and you want to pay attention to those bigger ones that really pull away, that create a strong divergence. And what do I mean by a strong divergence? Well, a strong divergence is a deep pivot, a push back up, cross that top Bollinger Band, and still can't equal that top pivot. So that may be something that we're looking for along the lines whenever it pulls back down in here. So let's close this out and let's grab that 28,657. Whew, okay. Now look at this. You know, we did have a little bit of a gap today, and that happens from time to time. It's not a very big gap. You know, we saw a gap right in here. It didn't bother to close that gap, and we're probably going to see the same thing here. It's not going to worry about closing the gap. Would it eventually possibly come back and close it? Yeah, but this was days and days and days later when it finally came back and closed it. So I wouldn't use that as too much of a concern. Actually, I don't even think it did close it. It got very close to it, so it didn't close this little bit. So I'm not really concerned with it making the attempt to close this gap that we'd seen. Now, here's a couple of things that we see going on the 28,657. And I'm going to spread this out just a little bit so we can get a little more insight into what's going on here. So we haven't reached those extreme levels to the downside on the 28,657. That is way down here. But we see we might have some opportunity to do that. We do have white BBs here. There's no divergence between these pivots. That says more down. It may pull back, but we should see it pull back into areas and just continue down. Now, where would it pull back if it might do a deeper pullback? Well, I would anticipate it to pull back all the way up here around the 4110 mark, because that was our last major pivot down right in here. And a lot of times it pulls back into those areas. So that's kind of more of a longer term thought process of coming back into there. This BB right now, even though it's still got 1,600 ticks, is just massively spread wide and far apart from that previous BB. That is a huge indication of strength. Now, that would be in a normal time. This is pre-market, so we tend to see those big gaps and drops happen and it turn around a lot easier than it happens when you've got all the players that are there during the day. So just keep that kind of thing in mind. Whenever you're seeing a really strong push in the MACDs that's coming from overnight activity, because it's just this one huge bar that dropped. So the BB's like, whoa, man, we are going down. But if we look at some of the other signs, we may see this try and at least pull back a little bit. I know I said we weren't looking to close the gap. I'm just saying that's not the objective, is to close the gap, but we may see this pull back a little bit because of the way that the other charts are behaving. So let's go ahead and take a peek at our trading charts. So let's start with the 10,946. BBs wide, spread apart. Let me turn this off. Those BBs are wide and spread apart. They're white. We do not have divergence going on between these pivots. We are equal, if not lower. Even if this pulled back now, we'd probably still stay at a lower area. Like if this BB just kind of scrunched back in with the last 5,000 ticks it's got left. And we may see that happen. Why is that? Look what's happening right here. And I'm sorry, I've got the MES. Let me pull, it's the same market, but let me pull up the ES. I was going through some notes with somebody earlier. So even if we look at the MES, it's the same kind of scenario. We've pulled up really, really hard and we pushed down. And what we can see is that the MACDs are really struggling to make a new low here. They are at an extreme low in the MACDs on the 1597. We do have a couple of areas a little bit lower than them, but this is a very extreme area that we're seeing reached in the MACDs right now. It's very rare that it goes much lower than that. You can see as we scroll back, it's very rare that it goes down to these areas. So we are at a very extreme area in the MACDs. And with this big push down in the price, the MACDs haven't quite equaled that push. Now, we still have a just freight train of strength coming down on the 10,946. So it's a little hard to say that, you know, this little bit right here, slow down, lighter BBs, is going to stop that train. So right now we do still have that momentum to the downside. Now, if we're looking for this to travel to the downside, our next area is down here around 4,000. If we look back at the daily chart, that was an area we had talked about before, because you can see it held up right about here. So it may be an area that gives it a little bit of a bounce back to the upside. Maybe just to pull back in here, pick up some steam and continue down. But, overall, the direction is down. Do we expect it to pull back? Yeah, at some point. I mean, it's just what the market does. We don't have any major pivots right now. These are just a lot of little pullbacks. And major pivots last happened all the way up here. And so that's why I'm saying if it pulls back, we've got a really decent area for it to pull back to, unless it starts making some pivots as we move our way through the market and the day. So right now our MACDs are still outside with strength here on the 10946. They're still outside trying to pick up a little bit of strength on the 1597. The 233, I mean, it's not a big leader, but it is very weak to the upside right now. It looks like it may be trying to create a shift and pull it back up, which would be a little bit in tune with those BBs getting lighter on the 1597 and just reaching extreme areas. So this is not something that I would trade right now, obviously. I like to do some pre-market at times, but I really like to wait for the market to open and get moving and have a lot more players in there. The only time I really trade overnight is when I have a lot of free time, because this stuff moves like molasses, and that can convince you to take trades that are not there. You can talk yourself into a lot of things when it's moving slow, because you can start just making things up in your head that aren't really there. So this market is definitely in a downward move right now. We have the trend moving to the downside, even though we've gotten above and below the EMAs. The EMAs are still open to the downside here on that larger chart. We've just got some areas that may hold up the party for a little bit. I really am expecting it to eventually make it all the way back down here at least. Maybe a bit of a pullback prior, but it's hard to say. I mean, it's always hard to say because, as I've said a million times, I mean, while I think it would be a great skill, I'm not a fortune teller. So I just got to see what it's telling me and pay attention to those signs and be in tune with it and not allow myself to make up things as I go along. Really just pay attention. Looking at what's happening right now, would I see an opportunity to take a long trade? I mean, even with it sitting right here at the bottom Bollinger Band and not really pushing through here, my mind says yes, but whoa, do I really want to fight? Some stuff going on right here? No. I'm good. For me, I always like to let it pull back. I want to see that pullback. And if I can't see the pullback, then I'm just jumping in without really understanding where my risk could be at best. All right. So that's going to be it for today. I hope that everybody has a wonderful week. If you've got questions, guys, just hit me up. I'd be happy to help you out. We're going to be running our scholarship information before too long. We're going to be planning on doing that in October. It's going to be something that Jason and I get to do together because I'm going to be out there in London with him. So we're going to be able to take on these new students as a team, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun. So, all right, guys, I hope that everybody has just an amazing week. Just take it slow, breathe through it all, be kind to yourself most of all, because that is the biggest thing. If things aren't working out, take a breath, step away. I mean, there's no use in just beating yourself up. You ever hear that thing about you don't drop your cell phone on the floor and then just stomp on it. But a lot of us do that with our trading. We have a losing trade and then we just tear it all up. And that is not productive for a trading future. Can we learn from it? Absolutely. You can learn from every mistake. You've got to learn from every mistake. Take it, analyze it, see what you're doing, understand what your thought process is during it, understand what your feelings are during it, because that is big. I mean, you want to say that you hear it all the time that we should be robots and not paying attention and not having any emotions. But that's just not the way it works. We all have emotions. We all have to pay attention to them. And if we don't, it can eat our lunch while we're trading. So that's it. All right, guys, have a wonderful week. And as always, you know that I look forward to catching you on the profitable side.